Welcome to the 3 for 3 podcast. So, what we got going on today, this is your NBA primer, okay? We're going to talk about NBA finals, we're going to talk about NBA draft, and finally the NBA offseason, okay? We're going to do 3 questions on 3 topics, all NBA. Fellas, let's go ahead begin where the NBA ended in the NBA finals, okay? So, Denver Nuggets victorious over the Miami Heat. Let's start with the Heat. We're going to talk plenty about the Nuggets. And the biggest question for the Heat is Jimmy Butler. Is Jimmy Butler a player who just can't get it done? I mean, you're Charles Barkley, you're Allen Iverson, you're Steve Nash, you're Karl Malone. I know we don't like saying his name.
Oh,
Is Jimmy Butler on that level now of he cannot be the main player on a championship team? Coach, let me go to you first.
that he's so Charles Barkley, all them guys, Jimmy Butler.
Ooh,
So
okay.
he's way below that stack. He doesn't belong in the Allen Iverson world. He doesn't belong in the Steve Nash world. He doesn't. He shouldn't. He should serve them food. He's their waiter. He doesn't belong. He doesn't sit down at the restaurant. He helps. He helps there. He works there. He gets paid. Gets a paycheck. But no. There's no way he belongs in that group. He's not there yet. I mean, can he win a championship being the main guy? He possibly could. But to say he's as good as Charles Barkley and them, that's no way. No way,
Okay.
no how.
Can't be a championship. Can't be the number one player on a championship team. What do you think, Podfather?
First of all, we're supposed to serve one another. That's the whole role here in humanity, right? But no, Jimmy Butler, I don't think he's ever been good enough to be the number one guy on a championship team. I think he is just at that very next level where he's like perennial all-star, all NBA, all defense. You know what I mean? Like he's a really good player, but he's not an all-time great. And I think that's what it takes for those guys. You got to have an all-time great on your team, unless you're the Denver Nuggets this year, who had a weak run. But I mean, I think, Jimmy Butler, put him below that.
We'll talk about their run in a minute, but I mean, Miami, 2 finals trips with Jimmy Butler being the man and kind of trying to elevate. I think you're right. I think we're 3 for 3 here. I don't think he can be the best player on a championship team. I think the Miami runs were kind of fluky. I just can't see it. He showed up for Milwaukee. He showed up for New York. He showed up for the Boston series and did not show up for the finals. And that's kind of how it goes. So let's talk about that Nuggets success. Now, I know you said, hey, they had a weak run. Well, they only had 4 losses. And they swept your Lakers. So maybe there's a little bit of sour grapes there. Maybe, just maybe. No. So I guess the question is, and this is always what comes out after a team wins a championship, is there potential dynasty here? Coach is shaking his head no. Let's go to Coach again. Coach, do you think this team could be the beginning of a dynasty, or do you think this is a one-off?
This is an absolute one-off. The dynasty thing is, I mean, that's just those are big words that are thrown around way too often. Every year, I do agree. Every year, somebody says it because people listen, and there's people like me that'll watch it to watch how stupid people are for talking about it. But I do watch, so that's why I understand why it brings it up every year. I get it, but at the same time, there's no way. I mean, they had like the weakest schedule. Yeah, they swept the Lakers. They caught a hurt LeBron. I think they didn't blow the Lakers out. Maybe one game it got pretty egregious. Other than that, every game they were in was a great game. The Miami series with 4-1. That was a super exciting series to watch, start to bottom. I mean, front to top, every part of that series was they were in it. They were close. Yeah, Denver was the better team, but like they're not blowing people away. They're not. I don't get the same feeling from them that I got when I watched the Warriors when they went on their run. I just don't get it.
Podfather, I mean, just supporting what Coach is saying, I think their toughest series was that Lakers series. Every game was competitive. So, Podfather, what do you think? Is this the beginning of a dynasty?
It was still a sweep, right? Let's just be honest, right? And so here's what I know. Anytime you ever see a dynasty come about, it takes a few things. It takes growth through players, and it takes health and a little bit of luck, right? Jamal Murray played out of his mind. Jokic and Jamal Murray together, what a tandem! We talked about that in one of the last episodes we did. If Michael Porter Jr. takes a small step, Aaron Gordon continues to do what he's doing. They sign a few pieces. They want to keep Bruce, right? They want to do a couple things, and so I'm not saying dynasty, but I don't see it unreal that they can repeat in a weak NBA where the greats are getting older. Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant are aging. They could repeat.
I tend to lean more to what you're saying, Podfather, and the only reason is just because Dynasty is thrown out relatively short. I mean, it's if you have back-to-back championships, all of a sudden it's this is a dynasty. Hey, they lost to the Lakers in the Western Conference finals in the bubble championship, so we got to throw that in there. And out of their top 7 rotational players, 6 of them are signed long term. The only one that's not signed long term is Bruce Brown, who you alluded to, who kind of say they want to come back. Now, my argument would be the biggest obstacle in their way is probably out east with Milwaukee. I mean, if Milwaukee can make a couple moves, then we're talking about maybe Milwaukee has the dynasty, right? So I think you're right. The odds are that Denver repeats according to Vegas. All right. So let me give you the Vegas odds. Okay. So for a 2024 title, right? Denver, Milwaukee, and then Boston have the top 3 odds. I don't know. I mean, Podfather, who are your top 3 going into next year as title favorites?
Okay, so mine would have been slightly different. I would have had Denver, definitely Milwaukee. I think a healthy Milwaukee to make 1 or 2 moves makes all the difference. I would have put Philly. I expected they're going to do something this offseason. Embiid is still Embiid. And then I would go Boston, then I would go LA. Because I think LA had some sneaky opportunities this offseason to get better. We'll see how it plays out, but I like it.
Say your top 3 again, because I think you did a Podfather thing and went 5 teams. Go ahead.
I did, yeah. So Denver, Milwaukee,
okay,
Philly,
all right,
Boston, LA. That's my top 5.
You heard it. His top 3 or 5 teams, Coach. Who do you got?
I think they got it right. Denver, Boston, Denver, Milwaukee, and Boston. I like them 3. I just think Denver's. I like the betting odds. They just won, so you got to put Denver up there. I don't think Denver repeats by any shape, form whatsoever. I think, okay, I do agree. I think everybody slept on Denver. Nobody watched the games. Well, congratulations. You're going to learn what it's like when you win. And when you win, it's way harder to win the second one than it is the first one. Everybody's coming at you. And so I think nobody sleeps on Denver. They'll get a tough ride. They're going to get about the 4th or 5th seed. And then I think that they'll probably go out in the second round next year is my guess. So, but the top 3 seeds for the Las Vegas odds, I think they're the great seed. They're in the right order of what needs to be at this time.
But it also depends on what happens with that team you're wearing the hat with, right? If they move a piece, they do something different. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so my top 3 teams. I think it's Denver. I think Boston's in there. I don't think it's Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee has a lot of tweaking to do for all this nonsense that we always talk about small market teams, right? The Milwaukee owners are truly small market thinkers. Is Brooke Lopez going to come back? Are they going to pay Chris Middleton to come back? What's going on with Drew Holiday? Again, he's starting to get injured. The other pieces that they're trying to surround on that team, like Grayson Allen, like Bobby Portis, who they had to pay. So I think Milwaukee might take the step back, and I anticipate Phoenix taking a step forward. Durant and Devin Booker, a full year together, I think they'll have a higher seed, and I do think they are going to make some moves, DeAndre Ayton, possibly Chris Paul, to fill out that team. So that's my top 3: Denver, Phoenix, and Boston.
I want to add in Boston too. I want to add in Boston real fast. That I know, Podfather, you're just talking about it, but I'll tell you what: if they ran, I mean, we're literally looking at a twisted ankle, a rolled ankle in Game 7. Could have been. It was the difference. It wasn't. It could have been. It was the difference in that Game 7. Boston would have came in on a 4-game winning streak going to the NBA Finals. There's 3 guys on that team that are defensive powerhouses. And it would have been a difference if Miami shot the way they shot and it was close every game the way it was. I know Boston would have been there, and I wouldn't have been surprised Boston won the series. Boston is a great team, and I think that everybody talks about all these moves they're going to make or should make. Listen, they were a rolled ankle away from the NBA Finals. A rolled ankle. They were not structure, whatever. Can they get better? Yes, but I think that sometimes everybody's quick to hate and Long time ago, I was quick to hate. Gosh, man, they're there every single year. And granted, this seems like they're one little thing away. I still believe it's a consistent big man that can actually play the center position. But other than that, they're good, man. They're real good.
Now, Boston's top two players, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, both third picks in the NBA draft, which is our next subject. So let's go ahead and bring this up. June 22nd, that's right, next Thursday, is going to be the NBA draft. Everybody knows who's going one, Victor Wembenyama, right? So I want you guys to look into your crystal ball and tell me at the end of his career, when he retires, what will his career kind of be most like? What player? I'm going to go to Coach first and then Podfather. Coach, so where do you see Victor Wembanyama's career ending up?
This is the hardest thing, and it's the hardest question out of all the questions that's going to be asked today. I promise you, by a mile. And the reason why I say that is because athletically and size-wise, he's different. He's just different. I can't think of a human being that anybody in the NBA that I would be like, oh, he could be like them, or like them, or like them, or like, because there's no comparison. There's nothing you can do of a 7-foot guy that can handle the rock the way he can. Now, granted, I still think he's going to get eaten alive in certain situations, and I don't think he's going to be a GOAT. I don't think he's going to end up a top 10. But to say he's not going to be a top 50 all-time player, I think he could be everything. He's defensively, he's got a mind on him. Offensively, he's got a mind on him. He can shoot the rock from three. He's probably going to be a really fast Yao Ming. I don't know how else to say it. It's the only comparison I can ever come up with, just because size matters, or a really fast, taller Bull. I don't know how to explain this. It is what it is.
I like it. Podfather, do you have any maybe size comparisons?
Yeah, I do actually, and actually, I'm going to stay on the Houston theme. I started thinking about a couple of names, and I was like, man, there was a guy in Indiana years ago named Rick Smits who just hit everything from 15 foot out, kind of built similarly. But then I started thinking about the two Houston guys, and it's kind of like a mix of them. The Ralph Sampson, you had Ralph Sampson, you had Hakeem Olajuwon, the 7-footers. Hakeem Olajuwon had nasty handles for a center. I don't care what anybody says. Lengthy, played way longer than the 7 foot that he actually was, right? I mean, his arms were super long. Do I think he's going to be that great? I don't know. But when I think about it, that's what I think about. Shifty. If he could ever work the post, be shifty in the post, he's never going to overpower you. But Hakeem didn't either. Hakeem just went around you, went by you, teardropped it, dream shake, you know what I mean? And so that's the closest thing I have.
So I think you're reading my mind. I think you're reading my notes, because who did I put down? I put Ralph Sampson down. He was nasty at UVA. I think that's his ceiling. I think, again, Ralph Sampson, his first year, 21, 11, and 2 blocks. I think that if he has a rookie season like that, Victor Wembanyama is going to be declared Rookie of the Year, and people are going to start making some crazy comparisons. And I love that. And he was, again, Ralph Sampson was 7'5". He was a skinny, a thin jointed individual. Now I do have a floor. I think his floor for his rookie year is Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis was slept on. Everybody thought he's going to be a soft hero when he comes in his first year in New York, before he caught fire in his second year, 14, 8, and 2. I think Victor Wembanyama definitely at least has those stats. 14, 8, and 2. I think he shows flashes of brilliance, but of course, he's going to take some time to develop. Now, we all know who the number 1 pick is going to be. However, after that, it is a complete, crapshoot of a draft. There's been a lot of rumors about the 2nd pick, the 3rd pick, Houston maybe moving 4. Indiana today, it came out, Indiana might move 7. Dallas has all but had an auction block for the 10th pick. So the next question, what team is most likely to trade out or up into the lottery? Whichever you guys want to talk about, and who do you think trades into it or out of it? Podfather, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I'll go out. I think the team most likely to trade out is going to be the Portland Trailblazers. I think either way you look at it, whatever pick they get, Dame needs help now. And I don't think they're in patient mode. I think they're going to try to win now just to keep him around, maybe get another contract out of him. Portland's got to move it.
Coach?
I think most likely to move up and out. I think that there's a marriage happening. I think there was a divorce that happened that's going to lead into a new marriage. The divorce was Michael Jordan finally saying, I really am not good at this job and selling out. And Charlotte going, maybe we want to make a move. And then New Orleans going, we want to make a move. And I think that it's going to be a perfect spot. Just rumored came out that they actually prefer Brandon Ingram over Zion, so they're not even going to ask for Zion. I think that's a really smart move. I think he'd pair well with LaMelo. I think they could bring them into a different era. Them two guys together could really help out. So I would say if it's most likely is moving up, I think New Orleans wants to move up real bad. They got a Jones for Mr. Scoop.
I love that. I just posted on TikTok asking that question today. So far, it looks like who wins the trade if it's Brandon Ingram for the number 2 pick. Pelicans getting the number 2 pick. That's shocking. I mean, considering Brandon Ingram. I took a little different. Everybody knows Dallas is. I think Indiana is in win now mode. I think with Coach Rick Carlisle, who I think is one of the better coaches in the NBA, I think with Tyrese Halliburton, and I think they want to keep hanging on to Buddy Hield and Miles Turner and saying, let's make one more run at this. Let's go ahead and sell off that pick, the 7th pick for a wing like OG Anunoby, somebody like that, bring him in, add to our defense, and really see what we have here. I think last year shocked them. I think they probably should have been tanking, but they decided not to. So I think absolutely it's Indiana who trades out and decides, hey, somebody else can take the 7th pick. We'll take an established player. There's a couple memorable draft moments. For me, I've been doing the redraftables on YouTube, on TikTok. It's everywhere. You guys can check that out. But I've also been looking at draft misses. And one of the best draft misses that I remember is Hashim Thabit.
That was terrible.
The second pick. And you looked at that draft and you just went, this is nuts. I think that's what everybody feels like Victor Wembanyama is going to be. I think they think he's Hashim Thabit. Podfather, what's your most memorable draft miss?
This one's easy to me because there were so many great that followed. Darko Milicic. I think this one, when Detroit took Darko, you had Carmelo, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, Kirk Heinrich even followed that. That, to me, that was the biggest one.
David West?
David West was one down on that draft. Yeah, absolutely.
Coach, what do you think?
I agree with Podfather. I'll throw in a different one because he picked that one. And don't forget that Detroit was champions. Like they were them then. They were a very good team.
The next year.
Any other one of those guys, forget about it. They would have been unstoppable for years. But I'm gonna go with just something a little different. Markelle Fultz. That pick was crippling. If they would have went any other route, they could have picked, literally closed their eyes and picked a different name out of the hat. Any one of the top 5 guys would have blew that guy out the water. And Philly would be in a totally different era with that type of setting.
Honorable mention really quick. Everybody throw in one honorable mention. Mine would be Greg Oden. Hated that for the guy. Great guy. But Greg Oden, I think he could have been a great in the NBA if his knees held up.
Coach, you got an honorable mention?
Anthony Bennett, first pick draft, Cleveland Cavaliers. It's a horrible draft, but just a horrible player.
Giannis draft, going 13th to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So I got a couple. Again, let me just talk about Darko Milicic first. All right, so there's some wild Darko stories, right? So had Darko not been the pick, they weren't looking at Carmelo. They weren't looking at Chris Bosh. They were actually looking at Dwayne Wade. So Darko Milicic gets on the plane, comes overseas, and he's going through a workout. It's like 11 p.m. and he wants to go ahead and get a workout in, right? So he flies to New York for the draft, get a workout in. He goes to a split gym, and who happens to be playing the Knicks that weekend in the playoffs? Detroit Pistons. So completely illegally, the writer Chad Ford who goes next door and says, "Hey, you guys know who's working out over here? It's Darko." And Joe Dumars goes, "Okay," and goes over and puts him through a workout. And to this day, I mean, again, 20 years later, Chad Ford says it is the best workout a prospect has ever had.
Talk about wrong place, wrong time.
I mean,
Jeez.
And if Darko isn't picked by Detroit, he probably turns out to be a decent prospect. I have, again, Luka. Luka shouldn't have been passed on by Phoenix nor by Sacramento. But the one that breaks my heart the most right now of recent years, Desmond Bane was selected 30th by Boston and traded for 2 second-round picks. And it broke my heart at the time because I was like, I love this kid at TCU. He's built like a tank.
He'd be perfect in Boston.
It breaks my heart every time, every single time. Speaking
I
of
don't
heartbreak,
like that guy. I don't like him.
Listen, I like him more than Ja. I think he's a great player.
He's my favorite player on that team.
Oh, congratulations.
On that team, he's my favorite player. Everybody else I almost hate.
More than Steven Adams?
Jr. Yeah, I like Desmond Bane better. I mean, not as a player. I'm just talking about as a human. Like, I like to watch him play. I like Desmond Bane, and then really close Jaren Jackson Jr., and then it drops off pretty heavily after that.
Least favorite was Dylan Brooks. Fact. We'll go ahead. Now, somebody is bound to screw something up in the offseason, right? Draft misses. So the next question, let's take a look at the NBA offseason, which to me is the best time of year. One, I'm off of school finally. I get my 3 weeks off of summer after summer school ends and before the school year starts. Second, there's always something going on with the NBA. So what team has the most to lose this offseason? Coach, what team do you think has the most to lose?
The Portland Trailblazers, because if they lose Dame or they try to put some B pieces, because that's all they're going to be able to have around Dame, and then they continue to lose, I just don't think Dame's going anywhere. He put too much in this loyalty brand. He can't go nowhere. They're going to be perennial 6th, 7th slots in the playoffs for the next 4 or 5 years, and they're going to completely waste a whole career. There's nothing they have so much to lose. And God knows, if they could just come off their heads and actually trade Dame, they might actually have a chance of drafting players for a future and could actually turn the franchise around. But it's one of those horrible, like, you talk about all the time. They're in the Buffalo Bills position. The perennial, like, just not there, but they're there, but not there. Never get a good, this is the best year for a pick, and there's nobody good at 3. I mean, there's somebody good, but it's not going to be anything that's going to change anything.
Draft purgatory.
Oh,
you are too good for the playoffs, too good for the playoff, or you're too bad for the playoffs, too good for a good draft pick. Podfather, what team do you think has the most to lose this offseason?
This one's so easy to me because I don't think there's another team in the NBA in this dilemma. And I think it's easily the LA Lakers. I think you have a 40-year-old LeBron James. You have an injury-prone Anthony Davis. You have your next 2 best players, Rui and Austin Reeves, on expiring contracts. You can match, but if you overpay, you're in purgatory for the next 5 years. It's going to be crazy. You have D'Lo. What are you going to do with that contract signing trade? It's going to be really important that LA makes the right moves, and it's going to be crazy. But there's an opportunity here for this thing to really blow up. You imagine them paying Austin Reeves $100 million? Rui another 40, 50?
It could be the Timothy Mozgov and Luol Deng situation if they're not careful.
It's Matthew Dellavedova in Milwaukee. You know what I mean? Like this, it could get really crazy in LA. And as a Lakers fan, this offseason really stresses me out.
LeBron gets people paid that don't deserve it a lot of the time. A lot of the time.
You're not wrong. I'm going to go Milwaukee. If Brook Lopez goes ahead and says, you know what, I want to cash in one more time. If Chris Middleton says I'm going to decline to player option and maybe I'll go play for Ime Udoka in Houston, I think things can go very sideways for Milwaukee, who proved until recently they are not willing to pay. And with the second tax apron being what it is at 173, I think 0.9 or 173, I think Milwaukee says, you know what? We paid Bobby Portis after we won a championship, and now we are no longer paying guys. So I think Milwaukee has a lot to lose this offseason.
But they overpaid Bobby. You know what I mean? They got themselves into that. They overpaid.
Yeah, they overpaid, but he provides the value, though. I'm not going to say he's overpaid. I think he's actually valuable to them, and he's valuable to a lot of teams at that price. I want to throw in one honorable mention real fast. The Golden State Warriors. Mike Dunleavy Jr. has a tremendous weight on his shoulders, and he better get it right. He better get it right.
What I know is that ex-Lakers murdered this thing at GM. They're killing it, and so we're going to go there.
He's a Duke guy. Duke guys are smart. So, Coach, I want to stay with you because maybe I have a feeling that this is going to be your answer. What team looks the most different heading into next season? Are you going with the Warriors?
It's so tough to say. I'm going to have to say the Warriors. I mean, I just feel like something's going to happen. I feel like they're going to make a move. They're going to shake some things up. Them and the Lakers, they could blow everything up or keep it the same, and both of them could be the wrong answer. You just don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. Are you going to get the Lakers being the best record? Are you going to get the Warriors that were storming down the last couple of weeks of the season and doing a good job? Is Clay going to finally be healthy? There's so many questions. It has to be the Warriors though, because there's just so many moving pieces. And with that new CBA, and honestly, who was the president again? Because he's
CJ McCollum.
Can you impeach a CBA president? That was wow. It was horrendous, and they directly affects the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics. It's just egregious. In fact, it helps LeBron. So, being the resident LeBron fan, I'm not mad. We're not in that situation.
Podfather, who do you think looks the most different next season?
I think it should be Chicago.
No, good answer.
I love it. You know, that's a great answer. My answer is Philly. I think there's a path. I think there's a path. Beal wanted to play with Embiid last year. I guess they're really close. They're boys. I think there's a path where you go. They re-sign Harden, and then they deal Maxey and Tobias Harris, who, I mean, he's a salary. He's probably really good for a bad team. To the Wizards with other stuff, Maxey, Tobias Harris, and a couple draft picks, get Beal on there, and I think that team looks a lot different.
I got one more honorable mention for you guys. The Atlanta Hawks. They should blow it up.
Quick question. Who's better, Kuzma or the guy from Philly? You just mentioned him.
Tobias Harris?
They're the exact same player.
Yeah, I think I would rather have Tobias Harris because he's not as streaky.
I'm weird, and Kuzma's a part of a championship team, and that always elevates when somebody's similar. And I know Kuzma's been there before. I just stuff like KCP came through for Denver, just had that championship medal beforehand. I'm giving the edge to Kuzma because of that.
Interesting. I want to stay kind of on Kyle Kuzma's team, the Wizards, for some offseason predictions. Just tell me, all right? So do you think this will happen? Yes or no? Okay, real quick. If you want to elaborate, feel free to elaborate. Podfather, going to you first for every single one of these. Offseason predictions. Bradley Beal gets traded.
Is it finally the year? I hope so. I really hope so. I don't think it happens, though.
Coach?
No, not at all. They just can't seem to make it happen. He's going to come out and say, "I never asked for a trade." It's just what he does.
I think he does. I think this is the year for weird offseason moves. And that kind of brings me up to another one. Houston, right? Houston said they want to go all in, right? They want to make the playoffs. Houston lands one of the four: Fred VanVleet, James Harden, Chris Middleton, or Jaylen Brown. Podfather?
I'm going to go yes. And I'm going to rank them like this: Jaylen Brown, number one option; Chris Middleton, Harden, then VanVleet. Okay? That's where I would be. I'm going to say yes, though.
Coach?
So you said rank them as the number one option. I don't disagree with you on that. The players that they should go after in that order. Unfortunately, the only one that I believe they're going to actually even have a remote chance at is Fred VanVleet, and I still think that remote, it's out there. It's out there.
He's got to go somewhere, and they're one of the two teams with money. I think they definitely land one of them, even if it's an overpay. I get it's a different GM. Daryl Morey used to do this all the time, right? He did that with Jeremy Lin. Hey, screw it. I'll just overpay him, and you can either match him or I'll weaken you as a team. And the very last offseason prediction, okay? Over or under 2.5 stars traded this season. And just for reference, last offseason, Rudy Gobert, DeJounte Murray, Spida Mitchell, Malcolm Brogdon. Again, some stars, some superstars, all changed teams. So, Podfather, are we going to see more than 3 or less than 3?
This offseason,
Yes.
before the season starts,
Yes.
yes, we'll see more than 3.
Okay. Coach?
No, I wanted to really bad because it'll make our life so much funner. Do not at all think it'll happen.
Can I say this really quick?
You
Yeah.
can always say it real quick.
Name the list. Let's start a list. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray. That's 2 that could be traded off the same team. One of them might go. DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine. One of them might go. Chris Middleton may go. Bradley Beal may go. I think there's a lot of opportunity this year, right now. It's a lot.
I think we see weird things with new CBAs. And one of the things we're going to see is teams trying to bail themselves out of that second apron tax by moving stars. And so I think we see a lot of offseason movement.
Don't disagree with a lot of you guys. The only problem I have with it is what do we call a star? Because half of them guys you just named, Bodfather, in my book, aren't stars.
Tom
They're just
Gugliotta, star?
Good.
Tom
Good
Gugliotta's an all-star. All-star.
All stars don't mean they're stars. It just means
It
they made
sure
an all-star
does.
game.
It absolutely
If
does.
6 people get hurt and you get to throw the shot up one time in the game, it doesn't make you an all-star.
If you're
It
one
doesn't
of the
make you a
300
star.
people,
It makes you an all-star.
if you're one of the 300 people that make the that have an opportunity to go to the All-Star game and you make it, you're a star in the NBA.
No.
You
just
may not be a
one-time-
superstar, but you're an all-star.
Yeah, a one-time all-star does not make you a star in the NBA. We can have a whole nother show on this comment right there.
We should have a whole nother show, but that's it for this one. Again, real quick, we do have a birthday boy on. It is Coach's birthday as of tomorrow.
Yes.
So happy early birthday, Coach. When
Happy
you guys are seeing this,
birthday to Coach.
not singing,
Yeah, well, it's all right.
but hope you have a great birthday celebration. I know we're gonna hang out Sunday on Father's Day, catch a baseball
What are you,
game.
46 now?
Jesus,
I'm younger than you. That's all you need to know.
So true.
sorry, ladies. He's taken. All right.
I'm
Before
mad- I'm as old as the amount of weight I lost in the last 3 months. How about that?
boy.
You're
All
killing
this-
it. You're killing it.
All this man does is have birthdays and lose weight. For Coach Frank LaFada, the birthday boy himself, for the Podfather, Alex Gullett, I'm Teach Nelson. See you guys next time. 3 for 3 podcast.